Hey everyone. Today we have a new Greek letter to discuss Omicron, and it's common knowledge that Greek letters are used to represent these different variants. But I find this particular letter particularly interesting compared to the others. The Greek letter on its own, Omicron, is like a diminutive form of omega. And this is probably a stretch, but the first thing that came to mind is little god with a little g. So if omega or alpha and omega represents God himself, the totality, then the diminutive form of that omicron would represent a little god. Might also imply God man, or man as God, as above, so below. There's something another YouTuber found that is really fascinating, and it's a 1963 movie called Omicron. And I've never heard of this movie. It's an Italian movie. And it has really the cover of this movie. Take notice of this. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a very similar pattern of rings, the same pattern of rings that we see at the ending of ipetgoat2, as well as Travis Scott's concert. So if you can't see that very well, I apologize, but you can see the movie yourself, and I have to credit Joseph Aquaviva for finding this. And then the plot of the movie itself is really peculiar. Very simply, a dead factory worker comes back to life after his body becomes inhabited by an invisible alien. We talked about on this channel before how a very real and plausible situation reminiscent to that of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is very plausible to what is taking place here. And that is what this movie is implying. And I just find that very fascinating. And then, of course, in addition to that, there's the very silly show. I don't know if you guys used to watch it, but I did. Futurama. I loved it. And I shared this in a post yesterday, Omicron Persei 8. And Omicron Persei itself is a constellation, a real constellation, one of 94 different constellations. And here's the episode, Omicron Persei 8 is a planet inhabited by large aliens that frequently attempt to invade Earth. So we have two alien references, and then I mentioned the significance of South Africa being in numerous zombie and alien invasion films, but let's not go there yet. It's a stretch, it's too early. Chances are there's probably going to be nothing significant from this. From what I read, it's a really mild variant so far, so it might not mean anything, but just for fun, why not talk about it? All right, I wanted to talk about one more thing before I go, and that is the scene in ipetgoat2, the destruction of the mosque. And I've really spent time on this trying to figure out if this was a specific mosque or represented Islam in general. And at first, I thought it represented Islam in general, but after really looking at some pictures of Istanbul, Turkey, and my mom's been there, by the way. I really wanted to go too. But the similarities between that scene of the city and Istanbul are uncanny. So I'm talking about the ending scene where the Turkish whirling dervish flies out of the destroyed mosque with 5 ravens, specifically 5, come out of that mosque. And you see a city and you see a bridge. And even the bridge has a similar appearance to a bridge over the Bosphorus Strait in Istanbul. So I do believe that that is the Hagia Sophia Mosque, and that is Istanbul. And ipetgoat2, many people think, is the Dome of the Rock. Many people think it's Mecca, but Mecca looks completely different. It would have a massive black cube in the center, which is not present in ipetgoat2. If it is, I don't see it. If somebody does, then please point it out, but I am unable to notice it. So there's 5 ravens that fly out of the mosque, and there's some things I never knew about raven mythology that I wanted to read to you guys. So especially in Greco-Roman antiquity. In Greek mythology, ravens are associated with Apollo, the god of prophecy. That alone is pretty interesting. They are said to be a symbol of bad luck. We know about that, yes. And were God's messengers in the mortal world. According to the mythological narration, Apollo sent a white raven or crow, in some versions, to spy on his lover, Coronis. 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 Daughter of King Coroneus. Coroneus of Phocis, who fled from Poseidon and was changed into a crow by Athena. We know about Poseidon. There's a statue of Poseidon in the Canary Islands, by the way. It's not on La Palma, but I think it's on Gran Canaria, where you have a statue of Poseidon seemingly coming out of the water. And that's sort of fitting for this situation to have such a statue. So I like that name, though, Coronis. When the raven brought back the news that Coronis had been unfaithful to him, Apollo scorched the raven in his fury, turning the animal's feathers black. That's why all feathers are black today. That's interesting. And then in Hebrew, there's something interesting that I never knew about either. So the raven is the first species of bird to be mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. The ravens are mentioned on numerous occasions thereafter. In the book of Genesis, Noah releases a raven from the ark after the great flood to test whether the waters have receded. According to the law of Moses, ravens are forbidden for food. Interesting. And there are many other references to ravens. And since there are 5 ravens, there is potential that may represent 5 pillars of Islam. There are 5 principles of Islam that Muslims live by. But overall, it's interesting. We do know there's a lot of Egyptian and Greek and Catholic and all kinds of mythology in ipetgoat2. So I think the ravens are quite important. Yeah, let's see what happens with this. As far as the market crash on Friday, I don't believe for a second that it's going to crash. It's all going to be bought up on Monday, and it will continue higher as inflation goes higher. And I don't see it crashing yet. I think this was just one of those scare tactics. But let's see what happens, and that's about it. Take it easy.